Hello, everybody. Nice to see you to my talk. Of course, the name is like VR experience, so it will be more like something fun to see and to inspire you to use new fancy stuff that people use for gaming, but you can also use it for like more or less professional fun. And okay, so about me, I'm Jarek Ratajski. I am developer, wizard, and an architect. Still, for those of you that don't know what's an architect, it's like the opposite of architect. If architect brings an order to the project, an architect brings a chaos. And it's a reason because only with chaos you can have some creativity. And I live in Lucerne. I work for a small company called Ingenious GmbH. We do fun stuff for banking and all of things that you know are in Switzerland, typical with money. So it means if you work for us, you get Swiss francs, which is cool. You work in a nice, good conditions when it comes to air, really, especially comparing to Krakow. So, you know, even though there is like you need to know German, it's still, I had a presentation about it. You waste 3 years for learning German, and then you get way more living in a healthy country. By the way, if some of you know German, and don't live in Switzerland, you know, it's just a waste, because come on, it's like, or, you know, you've learned you wasted a couple of years for German and you don't use it. Oh, come on. So it's like, that's my Pokemons below the things I play. So I mostly like have Java ground and all on JVM, but I also work with web technologies, and that's my Twitter. Follow me, of course, on Twitter and tweet, of course, if you have something positive to tweet about me. Okay. So, this is going to be a small journey. It's like from, I don't know, Krakow to Warsaw, not a long trip. But if you were ever to airplane, you know there are some safety instructions on board. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them are kind of crazy. Like, for instance, this thing, airplane mode on. It's like, you know, you switch off your iPhone or whatever, and you're going to destroy the plane. That's, of course, interesting. But actually, I want to ask you for one thing. If you can do it for me, it's not a must. Please turn off Bluetooth for this presentation, because I think I don't know if it's true or not, but seems that when there are a lot of people in the same room, I'm using this with a Bluetooth, possibly, I'm not sure, maybe that's something else, then it's like, doesn't work as good as normally. But maybe it's kind of untruth. I want to check it also. So please, if you can do it for me for this presentation. So this presentation is about human-computer interaction. So I got my first computer, which was, of course, the best machine ever, Commodore 64. And I was so lucky using that. But even at that time, I realized it's kind of like limited. And especially the limitations are in two most important points. When I read something computer, I am limited to this small flat screen. It's like, oh, that's not much information you can put that. On Commodore 64, that was amazing space of 300 pixels to width and 200 pixels wide. Nowadays, it's a little bit more, but it's still rather small area. And the second thing is this limitation. Like, we have a keyboards and we type something, but come on, I think faster typically. Okay, not if I'm writing Scala, but in many more languages like Java, I would rather type faster. Okay, so solution is like, I've seen that things, and of course, probably a lot of people tried it. Like you use a lot of screens, then you sit surrounded by the screens. So does it help? A little bit, but there is other problem. That was, in fact, affected me. Like this one, the chair. Because we, as developers, spend a lot of time sitting on a chairs, and it's like, it appeared to me one day that sitting is like a new smoking is a dangerous thing, which makes your life miserable, and it's like unhealthy. Because we, as devices, we are really badly planned. So it's like, it's some kind of a planned obsolescence, and looking at my colleagues and my age, I really see that like in age 33, 45, what happens is typically you have like this problem. Exactly, like, and then there is like, so you spend even more years trying to get out of Java, but then this happens, like, it's not really better at all. And for some unfortunate people that are less fortunate, it can happen even that. So it's like, you know, it would be better if we were like not sitting that much. So my idea, so it's not really visible because I typically try to have things black on black. That's my favorite color, so sorry for that. But it's about dreaming that if I would have to spend the rest of my life coding, which I really like, that would be rather like something where I have no limitations of this flat screen, and I can really walk around in my code. I can think of something that would be typed, and it should be typed. Yeah, basically I need this. That's even today, when I don't have it, I'm really thinking that I'm very, very limited. It's like, that's unfair. I really wait for this to be better. And I started this because I really want to be in the code, like in the movie. You might seen it. So a couple of years ago appeared this solution, Oculus, HTC Vive, which are great for gaming. This is really, I would say, it's like 3D gaming changed the game industry. I've seen it. Multiplayer games, internet, they changed industry of games because it's completely new dimension. And VR games, that is completely new. Games in VR, this is totally different. You haven't even tried it before. Try it because this is something awesome. Okay, why? Because you are in this world. While playing such games, you are exactly there. You have this feeling, and you can stand. You hear everything all around you. So the mind, is completely convinced that you are in part of the game. And that's one of my colleagues that was really, he has forgotten where he is. You see, he is fighting with his virtual swords. Some, I don't know, not monsters, but other guys. You see, this looks not that good from, I don't know what school of fight is this, but in game it's quite efficient. Okay, I even have one horror game for VR. And I don't really play it after I tried, because I don't want to wash my pants that often. So it's but it's really cool. For instance, if you like Minecraft, the Vivecraft, so Minecraft for VR, this is awesomeness, the ultimate awesomeness. Really, it's nothing you could compare with anything. It's not comparable to anything else. And so, but I am not going to build yet another game for that. I will try to start my journey into building my IDE of the future. But doing that, it's kind of hard. I will tell you later why. So I had to start with something smaller, not that cool, like editing the code. But maybe this inspired me. I am a consultant. I join from time to time teams. And I have to analyze the code. And typically, I have to start I'm joining a team. They have a project that's already has 3 years, which means total legacy, of course. And I have to look around the code, and I use the tools. And Sonar or stuff like that, they help me. I analyze Jira and different statistic metrics. But they have this nice colors where they present those packages are better, those are worse, and I can even choose in which dimension, maybe long methods, maybe crappy methods because very complex, or some bad practices. You can take, and maybe you see that those packages are healthy, they are displayed typically red, that are unhealthy, better look at them. And there is even this kind of a plugin, 3D Cities, where you can look from top on your architecture. This can be even more applications. You can even see that there are quite healthy departments, but there are departments with huge buildings, which are still green maybe, so it's big pile of code, but maybe quite okay. But there is this one skyscraper, which is red. Depends, we've been using in one company, and it was quite cool. And it inspired me, maybe let's do something like that with this, which I won't be really visited to this flat city, but I will be surrounded. So starting with presenting. And my thing is who knows PMD? Okay, so PMD is a kind of tool for those of you that don't know, that basically makes a matrix and looks at the problems in your code. It's for instance, you can use it as a plugin for Maven, and basically you get a report, which rules are broken in which part of code, etc. You can measure, for instance, more complex methods, which are too long, whatever. There are a lot of plugins to that you can use and configure, and then you get some XML, of course, because XML is perfect, and then you look at it. Of course, it generates HTML, whatever, but I wanted to look at this statistic in VR, at these statistics in VR. So, and what reason was more important for me to gather some overview of the code. So this was exactly one project which was new for me, and I wanted to have some like imagination. How does it look like? What's the landscape of this project? And of course there was the documentation, but nobody that has some experience with going into that project ever reads documentation, because of course it's only a lies after a couple of years. So I wouldn't bother. I wanted to look at the code and I wanted to somehow see it, visualize it. So I built kind of this tool where there are some boxes which are kind of stars, but I don't know how to draw stars, so those are boxes. And red are like red classes, green are classes that are not that as bad, and there are some connections, and they are even grouped in some kind of a clusters, like a normal stars. This forms kind of a galaxy. You will see it in a moment. And this. Maybe, okay, I will later need someone to help me. But this is the device I'm using. So first, now will be boring part. I will have fun, and you will watch. That's cool. Okay? But later, I will, with the help of volunteer like Magda, more of you can experience that here, while I will be continuing this talk. So basically, just for a moment, how does it work? It works in the way that I have basically two buttons here. One is this path, which I basically select in which direction I move. So if I go like forward, I press forward, it means I'm going in that direction. I can point here or here and go. And I can go backward. And I can sometimes even click this button, which means open the class and show me the code, which works crappy, but works. So now I'm going to present that. Just a moment. I will go back to maybe to this. So you should see something. It's not desynchronized. Okay. Tell me if you don't see anything. This is quite dark. I don't know why the screen is so dark, but okay. And how does it work? I basically look at my code. And maybe I am a architect from Ivory Tower. Right now I look from above. And of course, it's nothing there visible, but I see there is I don't know if you see it, but there is a cluster here of some things. And I'm looking at all violations in the code. So basically, whatever is red, it's like kind of something to look at. I go to this class, which has a name, DB SQL session. Of course, it's crap. It must be something with SQL. That was like kind of predictable. And this is the code. And that's the most awesome part of this presentation. You really go like in Star Wars through the code, and I can read everything. Oh my God, it's so fast. Okay, once again, this time it will be better, I promise. Like, go slowly. And I read, for instance, this is the red. Written, flash updates. Of course, it's red. It says cyclomatic complexity is 5. Okay, I don't accept that high cyclomatic complexity, so too many ifs inside of a method. Then I see something like flash bulk insert. Oh, of course, it's all to be refactored. But okay, this is how I look. I can even point the class. Sometimes I have classes that have some connections with other. Maybe this one. Oh, you see those lines? Those are connections, means they are kind of imports to other packages. And basically, if you see clusters, it means the classes that are in the same package either or are somehow connected, related by imports to other classes. So I can even navigate through those connections and see classes that import a lot or see classes that are imported. Okay, so this is like this. And right now, I propose that you go here and try it on your own. And Magda will be helping you to use that. By the way, I have this, I've forgotten the English name. Please, for hygienic reasons, wash a little bit your face and this device from time to time so that you will be healthy and you catch nothing. Just in case. This is your eyes. Never happened, but it's like if many people use this device, it shouldn't be dangerous, but I have it. So please use it. Okay, and who is going? Come on. Someone has to try it. It's fun. Maybe, and of course you won't be very efficient at it. Just look around, try something. If it doesn't work, don't be scared. We can use more time to explain how it works. It's it's not 3D game perfect. It's just something I did in a couple of hours, and it works with glasses. Okay, this is possible. You know how it works. So, you have a straps here. You can extend it, so it takes a little bit of time. Okay, now you can try it. Don't worry if it's too loose, it will probably not fall down. Just, you can extend it even more if you need it. At least you should be in the code.
Okay.
Now, you should, and maybe you, do you have a different then? Okay. Maybe you remember how to navigate. Oh, you do it already, cool. So it's like, yeah, you see even the code. Have fun while I'll be talking, and please switch, it is for you. You can't see how awesome is that if you don't look it on your own. Right? If you don't experience that, it's just, it's not that funny. So we'll be looking how strange things the guys are here doing, and I will try to continue with presentation. Okay, a moment. It's hard to have it constantly. And so how to code for VR? Because it was this, to code this was in fact very easy. That's surprised me. So there are 3 tools that are common for coding virtual reality, 3 engines. One is Unreal. So if you want to do really good game that will like win in all of the games, you have millions of dollars, you can use Unreal Engine. And there's other popular engine called Unity, which do support VR quite well. And I even tried it, it worked, they have good documentation, and they basically advertise themselves as the best game engine at this side of $1 million. It means you have less budget, but still you can do a lot of cool stuff with Unity. So please slowly switch, because come on, it's not that funny that you spend here that much time. Yeah, so slowly. Please, Magda, help, and other guys come. Please watch it sometimes for time. So there is Unity, and there is aframe. Aframe is engine for browsers, and that's the one I will be talking about today. And there is a reason for that. Because I first started with Unity, and the thing is that even though it's nice documentation, it's not my world. Because the tools are different than I use in my daily job, it's totally nothing with WebVr, come on, so it cannot be good. And languages there like C# and JavaScript, and even both of them are not real C#, not ideal JavaScript. And for me, it looks even like kind of application server, because I am limited by the things that are in the engine. This is not a real imitation. I've seen incredibly good things done in Unity, games that are very popular and demos. But for me, it was, I want to be in control of everything. And in Unity, I wasn't feeling this control. So I read about this webvr. In fact, I've seen a great presentation made by, I forgot the name of the girl at one of the conferences, and she was showing the webvr, and it was amazing how quickly she could do a couple of stuff. So she explained, she presented something called aframe. So webvr is a standard for how to connect browsers to virtual reality, like API. And browsers may implement that or not. It's like WebGL. And using this standard, a group of community built something called aframe. This is the library engine, which basically uses WebVR, and this is kind of like middleware for WebVR. So group of goodies and components we might use to do something quickly for WebVR, because WebVR itself is quite a low-level API. And what is aframe? Maybe the best way to show that would be to present the page of WebVR for aframe. So if you want to know more how aframe works, I will show you a little bit, but navigate to this page, aframe.io, and you can see it on your own. It's really, they have quite well done documentation. And now something for you. These 2 cardboards, if you don't know it, some of you might have good smartphones. You can try to use this, navigate to aframe, put your smartphone inside, and look in virtual reality on your own. So please, just, let's try it. Or put it to other people. This one has to be assembled still. So try it, put a phone inside. If someone wants to play it, it's incredibly, you can even during this presentation do something on your own, really. It's like 5 minutes and you can build something. And it would be even working on a mobile phone, which is cool. So, okay, you don't see anything.
No, I see, but it doesn't, okay,
Okay, because it was like overloaded by other things that I was presenting. Okay. So it's fun. You hear that. It's fun to some extent. Okay. And what is cool in A-frame, it is kind of my world. So it's like resembles me in my web applications I write. It's something I can debug in a browser and even works without this VR. So you can build application for webvr that will be usable in HTC Vive or Oculus or whatever, and you don't even have to have these devices. It means that probably it won't be working perfectly, but it will be like usable. You can try it with this cardboard on your phone, or just basically do it on a flat screen. It really works. The only problem is that support in the browsers is kind of not perfect. The only browser that works perfectly with that at this moment is Firefox, and sometimes some nightly builds or special builds of Chrome works. And there are some other browsers that sometimes work, sometimes not. It's like, this is unstable at the moment. So how A-frame looks like, this is the screen that I hope explains everything. Oh, come on, this is like HTML, and you have body. You only attach one JavaScript, and then you use special tags, like a scene means like kind of a body, but for a VR scene. A box means simply a box, a cylinder, a sphere. This is something everybody would understand. And there is, of course, documentation, which primitive objects you can use. And after, this is exactly the HTML needed to generate this thing. And you can even go around these boxes, sphere, and cylinders. It would work. So it's really easy job to do something which is static scene. You can just put it, and it should work. That was like really nice experience for me, where I built something really quickly, and it was working. And there are more, of course, things like you use entity, which is basically kind of a node, like div, more or less. A plane, which means something like square thing, and a lot of them I will not present it on the page of an A-frame. You see the documentation for all of these primitives, and you can really quickly build something. But because it's just those are nodes in HTML, you can also dynamically insert them. So with regular JavaScript or a TypeScript, you can build something that even moves. There is a special library called 3JS, which is mature and was used for 3D for WebGL things for ages on a JavaScript world. This A-frame is built on top of that. So if someone has some experience or wants to do something more advanced, already all snippets for 3JS are helpful in A-frame because basically A-frame is built on top of that. So 3D library for JavaScript. And you can even work with jQuery, so adding things, finding things. You can do it with React. But for instance, I used the best framework in JavaScript ever created. I would say the lightest, called Vanilla.js. I do recommend it for you. You can download it if you wish. There is really a page of Vanilla.js with a lot of documentation and things like that. So this is a really cool framework. And so one complicated thing is building the scene with everything is easier than you might think, even if this is like a dynamic scene. The problem is controlling these parts, the special devices, track controllers, because they are kind of unstandard. And Oculus Rift has their own, Steam has their own. There are even some kind of completely crazy controllers, and they are not always compatible with each other. And the problem is support for them is not stable. So the most problem I had is, in fact, with controlling the things. Presenting was easy, but controlling and navigating was I was really fighting with documentation which wasn't full, etc. But okay, let's see what kind of fun is happening. There's still a lot of fun. So I haven't shown even all the features, but you sometimes see this red all violations. Oh, you don't see anything right now? Something stopped? Just, Magda, can you go away? Because it's just, sorry for a moment. It's like there are more people between those stations, then sometimes they lose synchronization, and it doesn't work. You need help? It's loose. Okay, you can attach the straps more, like you can squeeze them like this, and it should help you. Okay. Okay, now they lost tracking again. It happens. Sorry for that bad experiences sometimes. Okay, the thing is that some of you that already seen it from inside or even on the screen have seen that everything was cool, but looking at text in this is not that cool. There are two reasons. First of all, editing a text is a thing I tried a couple of times, and I was never satisfied with this. There is a special component even built for that, but this is very horrible experience where you use tracking controllers and you press things on a virtual keyboard. Or even, using the very old smartphones with crappy keyboards, that was even better. That's really one of the worst experiences you can have. So basically, editing a text is horrible, and even looking at text is kind of it's really causes headaches because the text is blurry and not really readable after a while. Why? Because this particular device, for a moment, doesn't have really good resolution. It's like 1,000 pixels width on each eye and 1,200 pixels height. And this is good enough for good gaming experience, but it's too small resolution for a text. Why? Because normally that kind of monitor would display it for you. We were working like 10 years ago on that resolutions, and we were quite satisfied, but it was this flat screen in front of you. Right now, this 1,000 pixels is all around you in this area, so it's like those pixels are pretty huge. And you see it. So the solution for that is this. This is the new HTC Vive, which has slightly better resolution. I haven't yet tried it. It's still not perfect, but because this old looking at text wasn't nice, but it was almost acceptable. With this, it should be better. So if you have money, you can try it with new HTC Vive Pro. I'm not selling that, so it's like I also probably have to buy it and check it, but it might be the solution. One thing that I was trying was to use speech for editing the text inside of it. And that was one of the worst experiences I had. Like, by the way, dictating a text of the document is something that already works. But if you dictate a text of Scala, like open curly brace, delete, but please not write delete, delete last word, delete. And then you try even to spell all these special characters, it's like, no, it won't work. Okay, there are special dictating tools for programming. There is one called Dragonfly. You can basically build your kind of vocabulary for that. I haven't really tried it, but it appeared that in order to get something really working, I would have to spend a couple of months configuring it. So I didn't have that much time basically for looking at my first project. Inside of this I had like maybe 2 weeks. So even editing for a moment is something I'm not thinking of. I'm still more looking at how to extend it in presenting the things. But for the future, why not? So I tried Web Speech API, and it was like a horrible thing because it works with Google to some extent, but the thing is that it works mostly in Chrome, but webvr doesn't work in Chrome, it works in Firefox, so I could choose one of them, either VR or speech. That was so not that funny at all. So this is basically now about some details, how I built that. Because this is like something that would even work for you if you are not using the VR. How to basically display code in a space. Because like how those clusters of classes like the stars were created. How to basically make things all around you. This architecture that you will later remember how to present that. So I have a trick that I'm using for many years to do that on my own. I'm trying to present the stuff as particles that are kind of like physical elements, physical particles, and they have some forces like in the normal real world we have. So I will show you that. Let's see again what kind of fun. Oh, someone is looking at code. Luckily for me, this is not the application that I was analyzing. This is one much better application because the original was kind of read everything. So that was more fun of course, but I can't show you that. Okay, so let's imagine that those are Java classes, these balls, and what's happening here, if the classes are in the same package or they import from each other, let's imagine there are kind of springs between them that connect them. So if you try to separate them, they will try to stay closer. If you put them too close, they will naturally spread a little bit, like a spring. And there is a second thing. They all try to disperse in space because they have something like anti-gravity. So they naturally, if there was no spring, they would like form a cloud simply. Well, cloud is always cool. So the thing is that this is, for instance, the simulation of a gravity. And of course, anti-gravity would be the same, but with minus. Basically, it's even like a Coulomb law. You have you have these particles and they simply separate, and you can basically I present them in a three-dimensional space, and I really calculate this force. In each step, I have like kind of a simulation steps. I calculate the forces, and it means that all the classes basically they try to escape from each other. So I get finally some vector, which is sum of all those forces, and it's this. So anti-gravity. It's even used in a lot of games, this kind of simulation. And the second force I'm using is basically like this Hooke law. So basically the spring that has some like natural distance between elements, and if they are closer than this natural distance or wider, there is a force that tries to keep them together at this distance. So it's like I join those forces in one vector, sum it up, and finally I see in each step I apply the final vector, like this class goes a little bit this direction. This simulation is constantly running, so every couple of seconds you get small movement, which is basically, you don't really see it. But what's important at the beginning is everything is totally random in space, and then I even have like something like couple of 200 generations of simulation, so that the first screen that you really see is already somehow ordered. Because without it, like first steps, it would be total chaos. You have everything all around you. This is like pure chaotic movement. But after like 200 generation, it becomes more and more stable, and then all the particles of the Java classes take some place. And what's fun, if you use, that is the thing, you use the same seed. Every time you go back there, you see the same layout. But there is one problem with this. If someone so I even get used to architecture of one application. I really was like, I'm looking at this code. I know these packages with XML, those are ugly. This with SQL also. Those are nice. They are here. But one day there was refactoring, some move of the classes. After I've regenerated, everything changed its place. So this is the thing that I would have to work later if it maybe will be used for, like, if I'm thinking about wider use of this. Because for me it works, but if to make it professional tool, you would have to think how to do this more stable if the code changes every day and you still want to look around it. From the top, like from the ivory tower. I haven't built ivory tower, but that would be a sphere. The cone with a ball, and then I can stand on an ivory tower. That would be cool. Okay. Of course, A-frame supports that. Maybe you can even, in A-frame, that's cool. You can have your own components and people extend it. You can download a lot of ready components for that. So one more thing, how it was done. So this is the browser part where in JavaScript I put all of these things. I built the scene. So normally I could, as in a JavaScript, I could extend the page with divs and images, whatever. Here I'm extending with a box, a sphere, whatever, and it works, a line. And I even using the same as normal JavaScript, I will have like mouse listener. Here I have trackpad controller listener, which works the same way. This is reacting to events. But there is also a server. What does the server? Server is written in Scala with aka HTTP. It reads basically the PMD XML and presents it as a big JSON for the JavaScript code. I won't show you this JSON because just kind of JSON with classes and everything. And the positions, because positions I calculate on the server. Okay, now this is if you want to have fun after this presentation, you are welcome here. So my conclusions to this, and this is basically what's for you. A-frame, this is the very simple thing to use, and you could use it for your own fun. You could use it without having the devices and investing in them. You could use it with this cardboard and on your phone, and it would work. And it is really way simpler than I thought, and it's a lot of fun. WebVR itself, it's not yet stable enough to build a product, I would say. Because basically every time I'm trying to present it for the auditorium, I'm scared that this day the Steam VR will have an update, or Firefox will have an update, and nothing would work. This never yet happened on a presentation, but happened a couple of days. Basically, I was trying to use it, show it to my colleagues, and it didn't work at that day. But the next day, there was an update of Firefox, and it was like fun. So, you know, it would be really, I was almost scared before this presentation because exactly there was an update of Steam. How cool. So, the cool part is that A-Frame has a lot of stable components, even this editing component, which is not that fun, but it's already there. And you can download a lot of components for controllers, specific or for building scenes, and they work, even for presenting code a little bit. So coding in VR for the future, that's like, because I told you that that would be my dream. So at the moment, I would say the reality is we can do something passive, like looking at the code. And as in this, it was working, and I was already used that. I don't say it really helped me a lot, but it was fun. And for presenting the code to be really readable, we have something better in the future. Maybe this HTC Vive Pro, I will tell you later, maybe in the next, in a month or two, how it works in a new generation or VR, maybe better. We'll see that, with better resolution, I hope so. And basically that's this. Editing will be always tough, kind of. And that's the end of my presentation. If you have questions, I am open to you. I played with this technology more. I didn't show you everything because basically my idea is I want to show you the possibilities. You see how easy is that, and all the documentation you see on the A-frame. If you want the more crazy stuff, that's me fighting with Philip Wadler. Follow me on Twitter. You will see such things. And OK, thank you very much.